Welcome back to DUBBZI Bricks for part 2 of building IG-88 in Lego. Now this is a mini build series where we're creating a model to take to Bricktastic in Manchester in about a month's time. And this is what we've come up with so far. Now as you can see, there are two IG-88 started here. And the reason I'm building two is I'll get one part done, replicate it, then if I'm not happy with any part of it, I can experiment. And if I'm not happy with the experimentation, I've got another version which I can go back to, copy, and I'm back to where I was before. I'm finding this a really good way of building and designing this droid, and I'm having so much fun doing it. Now, in the last update, I mentioned this part on the top here, that I would find my dark bluish grey one out and swap that over. That's not going to happen because they've never made one in dark bluish grey. I don't know where I thought I saw it, but yeah, clearly it's not a piece, so I can't do that. However, I have got an idea of a different part that I could put in the top part just there. Now, I was wondering whether this whole build would look better in light bluish grey as opposed to dark bluish grey, and also use a lot of the metallic parts like that in there. I thought that might look quite good. However, the one problem is this part here is not available in light bluish grey. There was a solid version of it made, as this one's hollow, and it came in a couple of sets, one of them being a Lego Movie 2 set. So I could possibly buy that set just for that one piece and make this in a light bluish grey, but I'm not sure how it will look. So I may experiment with making one up just to see. Obviously I won't be able to get the whole head done as I haven't got that part just yet, but yeah, it might be worth looking into. Now there was a comment in the video last time out about the hands here. Now the arms are one part I want to do a lot of work on. I'm not happy with this top section here, and I have discovered a part which I can use in this part here, which I think is going to look a lot better. So we'll cover that bit a little bit later on. But somebody said that I'd done the hands incorrectly and it should be 4 digits. Now, I've been looking online for images on this. I've Googled the question, how many fingers does IG-88 have? And apparently he's different to IG-11. IG-11 has 4 fingers. IG-88 has more like claw hands, which is what this looks like. Now, when I looked at another couple of images, admitted one of these is only of a toy. It has 2 digits and a little hook bit at the bottom, which I imagine helps to keep the rifle or whatever house he's holding in place. And when I looked at this image from Wikipedia of Empire Strikes Back, once again, it does tend to look like that is the case. So that is the design I'm going for. If anybody else has got an image that proves otherwise, please send it through to me and I'll happily have a look at it, amending it. The good thing with the way I'm building is I can quite easily make these amendments on there. And I do want this droid to look as accurate as possible. But first of all, what I want to do, I'm going to make one of these torsos up in light bluish grey just to see how it would look. And here we have the upper torso made in light bluish grey, and personally I think it looks better in the dark. It just yeah, it's just too clean looking at the moment. Now, one other part I have been working on are the arms here, and this is just a prototype in light bluish grey, as you can see, and I quite like certain parts of it. However, I haven't got a lot of the parts I need in the right colour. So these 2x2 macaroni pieces here, for example, I don't have any of those in dark bluish grey. And the other part that I haven't got are these round bricks here with a hole in dark bluish grey either. So there are too many pieces missing to enable me to do it in this style. And also there is something about it, it's not looking quite right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to carry on experimenting with my dark bluish grey version of this and see what other connection points I can put at the top here to see what looks best. And here we have the latest version of the arm and the hand as well. So I've gone for a more accurate hand compared to the source material that I'm using. I've added this part to the arm just here, but I've changed the top up to using a load of these 2x discs, which I think looks a lot better than before. Now, the only problem with this design is the connection point here is not the strongest. It's just relying on one stud there, which has got an axle through it, connecting it to the Technic hole there. So I'm not sure if that's a legal or an illegal building technique, but it works. It's just, yeah, could do with just a little bit more strength. Anyway, let's make the other arm up and then we can start on the feet and the legs. And here we have the first attempt at the foot, and it's okay, not blown away by it, and I'm certainly going to be spending a bit more time on the feet a little bit later on. But I want to start working on the leg itself. With the feet, there are a couple of parts here which I'm not sure about. The angle here I think should be the same on the back, but I saw a couple of different images and it looked different in both images, so I just need to do a little bit more research. But I am thinking 45 degrees on both sides will potentially look a little bit better. Now there are also supposed to be some curved parts on the very top there, which I'm struggling to get in. I was going to try and attach a disc to the side there, which I think will look a lot better. But yeah, we'll come back to the feet a little bit later. But what I want to do now is just work on the actual legs themselves. Also, just to make sure that size-wise is all looking good. So let's turn our attentions to the legs and I'll show you what we come up with. And I have been working on these legs for absolutely ages, and just trying to get them right has proved quite difficult. Ideally, these two parts here that stick up would be a little bit closer together, but I just can't work out or find a piece that's going to do the job how I want it to work, basically. The joint on the knee there is not the strongest, but it's doing the job, so hopefully it's going to be okay. Now, this part up here, at one stage, I was planning on using this bit. However, what I found was that it was just too wide. I could almost do something that's 2.5 studs in width, but I've ended up going for these parts here. This orange, dark orange part that's just here, I haven't got any of these in dark bluish grey. I'm not sure whether or not they actually do them in dark bluish grey. I've got light bluish grey here, but I don't think that's going to look right. Even this part at the top, I would have liked to have had some of those in dark bluish grey. I've got around it on the bottom by using these droid parts. This is the droid torso with no print on there, and that's worked out perfectly for that part, but I can't use it on the top as I want to have the studs available to me. But I'm just going to experiment with a couple other pieces on this section just here, and then once I've done that, I'm going to start working on the paneling that goes around the hips. And here's the latest version of the leg, and a little bit happier with this. By using a dish part and one of these parts just here, it's enabled me to get the bars going up from the legs, which is a lot more accurate to the source material. So I've decided that is the way that I'm going to be going forward. These are at 2 different lengths due to the armour that's going to be going around there, and I think that bit's going to be quite tricky due to the size that we're working at here. I'm finding that none of the circles are actually in the right size for me. I need things that are like 2.5 studs wide or 3.5 studs wide, and yeah, very restrictive on the parts we've got here. But we're finding solutions slowly but surely. But now that we've got this in a way that we're really happy with, what I'm going to do now is just concentrate on the armour that goes on the top of the leg there. And I can't believe how long it's taken me just to come up with ideas and solutions for the shapes that we need to create, just for something as simple as armour around the legs. Now with this, I would have ideally had this about 3 studs in width, but we've had to go for 4 because it's the only way I can get the curve on there that I'm after. So here we have it all attached together, and that is looking really good. As I said, maybe a little bit too wide there, but what can you do? Hopefully one day they'll bring out a curved slope that's 3 studs in width and just 2 plates high in the actual size of it. And here we have the foot attached to the leg, and yeah, really happy with how this is all coming together. So I'm just going to start making the opposite side now, and then we'll start working on the hip joints. And here we have the 2 legs all made up. I just need to find some more of these pipe pieces here to wrap around the legs. I think there is supposed to be 2 on each side, but we're just having to improvise with connection points, but also what we've got in our parts inventory. Now I've used this part here, and it'd be really nice if I could find one in a darker colour. I've got some metallic ones which I'm using on the arms, so yeah, it would be good if we can find an improvement on that part. Now with these parts here, they are only connected by a couple of studs, which is, again, making it all very, very fragile. But as this is just a display piece, hopefully it's not going to be an issue. But let's start working on the hips, and I'll check back in once we come up with a design. And here we have the hips, the top of the legs, and the ball joints that are connecting everything together. And it's a very fragile build. I'm a bit concerned about the lack of connection points on here. Now, as I've mentioned before, and I'm going to mention several times again, I'm sure, this is just a display model. So as long as it stands up, that's all that matters. It doesn't need to be strong enough for people to play with it, because that's not its purpose. But underneath this here, we've got a double-sided snot brick, and then we've got a plate, and then we've got the ball joint plate just by the side of it. And the reason I've gone for it this way is it's just to get the hips that a little bit closer together. If I put those so they were facing each other and connected to a 2x1 plate, the gap between is 4 studs as opposed to just over 3 here. So this is the piece that we're using, and it does seem to be relatively strong, this part here all connected, but underneath here we've gone for 2 of the 3x1, and again that's just so we can connect to these 3 studs we got at the top of the legs. So this is the problem we've got, there's so few studs everywhere on everything to connect it together, and again we're just going to have 4 studs here which is going to be connected into the torso. So let's put it all together and just see how strong it is and how it all looks once we put all the parts together. And here we have IG-88 standing to attention and loving how he's looking. However, I'm not loving his strength. He's very fragile, and this is something that I do need to work on. There are so many parts of this build which are only connected by 2 or 3 studs here and there, and the waist is one area. Although the jumper plates feel quite strong, I just wish there was a little bit more strength in there. So I'm going to see if there's a way where I can build the plates up into the torso. Now I'm not sure how easy that's going to be due to the measurements. I think we're probably going to be like half a plate out, but I'll certainly have a play with it and see what I can come up with on there. Other parts where it could do with being a little bit stronger is just here. However, I don't think that's going to be that possible. The arms, it doesn't connect fantastically into there. It's okay when it's displayed like this, but if you start moving it, it is very easy for it to fall apart. So where I can strengthen up, I will certainly try and do so. Now, there are certain aspects of this looks-wise which do need working on, such as the head. There needs to be a lot more details on there. I haven't put the trans orange pieces in, however, that's quite easy to do, but there should be 4 holes down the bottom. So I'm going to use another one of these down here instead of using 3 plates. I think that will look a little bit better. The feet are another issue. Now, A, they don't look very good, and secondly, the Technic pin just down here is not doing a very good job. The feet are very loose, so they wobble quite a bit. It took me quite a while to get the figure balancing like I have here. Now, I will be putting this on a black display stand, so that is going to help massively when it comes to strengthening the whole build up, or at least I hope it is. Things like the knee joints, there's not a lot I can do with those unless I make it so that the knees don't bend, which is one option. That will obviously strengthen it up. There is no other piece I can use on here which is going to give me the look and the strength and give me additional strength into it. So I just need to decide whether or not I keep him with the ability to bend the knees, or whether I use 2 different parts on there to make it so he is just straight-legged basically. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge a little bit later. Now, with the feet, as I said, they do want to move from side to side a little bit. If I do make IG-11 and a speeder bike, that's going to be perfect because his feet can rest on the pedals. So it's just a case of, yeah, deciding how I go forward with this. But yeah, really happy with how it's coming along. It's great fun building, very challenging, and I'm really looking forward to making more droids in the future on the channel. Anyway, that's all we have time for. Hope you've enjoyed the update. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if nobody else you think would be interested in building IG-88 in Lego, if you could share the channel with them, it'd be much appreciated. Anyway, thanks for popping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.